Welcome to another edition of Bear Down with Brian Jeffries. That would be me. The better looking man on the other screen is Sean Miller, head basketball coach at the U of A. 11 seasons, of course, and a season that was, like all, interrupted far too soon. And Sean, before we get anywhere else, I want to make sure I ask about you and Amy and the boys and your staff and players. And it's an unprecedented time in our history, but we want to make sure everybody's doing okay.
You know, we are. We're very fortunate. My three sons and wife, and just both of our families, Amy and my family, are all healthy and really doing, I think, what we all are, and that is trying to be as safe as we can and looking forward to a brighter future.
Absolutely. I want to go back to March 12th. You were scheduled to play USC that night, of course, at the Pac-12 tournament in Las Vegas. Had beaten Washington the night before, and then, of course, everything kind of unfolded. How did you go about telling the team? I know that was kind of a traumatic time, but a time that everybody was together as well.
Yeah, I think it'll be unforgettable where we all were when things started to get canceled, and we've gone into the kind of the new COVID-19 phase that we've been in for a while. But you know, our staff, we were in a hotel suite coming off of a big win for us, Washington. And as you know, Brian, Washington was a really dangerous team to play in March, and I thought they really hit their stride at the end. But we had one of our, I believe, season's best performances against them, and we were hard at work preparing for USC, scouting, going over the game we just played, and really, you know, getting everything organized for that night to prepare with our team.
All right, to no one's surprise, Nikko, Manny, and Josh Green, Zeke Naji have all announced that they're going to enter the NBA draft. They're extremely talented. They've been talked about. The scouting reports have them as highly ranked players. No surprise to you, but at the same time, I mean, big losses, but what about their future? All of them look like they have a chance to really make an impact at the pro level.
Yeah, you know, we'll miss all three of them, no doubt about it. We'll miss them on the court, a tremendous amount. We'll miss them off the court. You know, unfortunately, you know, the length of time that we recruited Josh and Nikko in particular, also Zeke, but we recruited Josh and Nikko longer. The recruiting process lasted longer than their tenure at Arizona. You know, it's just, it's something God, you wish them the best. You wish that you could have been around them longer. All three of those guys were so fortunate because as talented as they were as incoming freshmen, they were really good kids. They come from great families. I really believe this, that, you know, they not only enjoyed their experience at Arizona, but I think they'll even enjoy it more when they leave and they look back. Unfortunately for them, you know, because they were only here for a brief period of time, that coupled with what you just talked about, Brian, they lost the Pac-12 tournament and the NCAA tournament. You know, that's really why you come to college to a certain degree as a basketball player, what you want to accomplish on the court, March Madness, right? So to be here only a year and lose March Madness, I feel really bad for them. And but their future is bright, like you mentioned. We wish them all all the best, great luck, and I have no doubt they'll all be successful in their own right.
For the returning players, basketball is a team sport, but they can do a lot individually. Maybe you can discuss the communication with those guys, what Chris Rounds has them doing on an individual basis now during the offseason.
Well, you know, I think today, you know, as we talk, Brian, it marks about the 7th week since we were all together in Las Vegas, and we recognize that, you know, the Pac-12 tournament is canceled and so is the NCAA tournament. So we're about 7 weeks out. I think for the first 2 to 4 weeks, it was a matter of safety. You know, what is this that we're all doing? Allowing each of our players to get home, making sure that in their own right, that their own families are safe and healthy, that they had a safe place to go to. And then, you know, phase 2 was making sure that academically that they were able to finish what they began and have a spring semester, how that works, you know, working from home, everything online, the checks and balances, and making sure that they had all the support that they needed to be successful to finish the spring semester. And then that phase ended. And then I think the third phase that we went through is just kind of an encouraging phase that, look, at some point we're going to return back to school. At some point, we're all going to be allowed to leave our house. This will not last forever, and just hang in there. And And I think now that phase is ending, and really what we're starting to do is have more direct talks to make sure that those guys are finishing up academically, that they are in fact really starting to work towards getting back here this summer and be the best basketball player that they can be as well. Each one of them has different resources. We have certain players that they have a basket in their driveway or backyard. We have certain players that had to search out a basketball. Not only do they not have access to a hoop in their own yard, but they don't even have the ability to dribble a basketball. Same thing with weights. We have certain guys who have dumbbells or like an really in-house setup. We have others that just have to do push-ups and sit-ups. But by NCAA rules, we're not able to keep track of what they're doing. We can encourage them, and certainly we can't tell them what to do because each one of them is aligned differently with like I had mentioned, their resources. So as we move forward, I think we're looking forward to that date whenever it is that we can reconnect. And I think until then, communication is everything. Our assistant coaches, our staff, our strength and conditioning coach, Justin, our trainer, team doctors if needed, Andy Salgado, who's in charge of our team's academic well-being, all the tutors that they have, and then our team communicating with each other. We're just trying each Sunday through Saturday to have a communication network where we're talking to each other to make sure that we're all on the same page as best we can. But it's in our best attempt to be efficient, Bryant, we're doing the best we can. That's the truth.
Yeah, like all of us. Hey, before we totally push last season aside, your team had one of its best defensive seasons since you've been the head coach at Arizona. What was the key there that obviously you hope to carry into the next season?
Well, you're right. And it was a great challenge because we were coming off of back-to-back seasons in which our defense had slipped. I think if you look at our 2018-19 season, Brian, we may not have been as deep or as talented as a normal Arizona roster was. The year earlier, when DeAndre was here, we were very talented, but we were much more talented on the offensive end than we were defensively. It was great for us, I think, as a coaching staff and as a program to return back to being a good defensive team. In Ken Palm, which we really look at because I think that it is by far the most efficient statistical analysis of college basketball. I think we finished 14th in America in terms of defending the other team. And with as much change as we had from one season to the next, I think it gives us a lot of optimism and hope that although we change quite a bit from one year to the next with our roster, that what we do works and that we can maintain a team that can get stops. Because as you know, Brian, winning on the road, they're just sometimes in your best attempt that you have to win in an ugly fashion when the ball doesn't go in, or you have a bad shooting night, or sometimes, you're injured, or you have a bad free throw percentage night. But can you still win when that happens? And, some of our biggest wins in the Pac-12, some of the wins that allowed us to be an NCAA tournament team happened because we were tough to score against. So we look forward to continuing that.
I want to touch on some of the players on your roster, and two guys in particular, Jordan Brown and James Akinjo, because they're transfers. They haven't played a game yet in an Arizona uniform, but yet they've been part of the program. Jordan for the entire this past season, and Akinjo coming in mid-season. What have you seen from them so far that gives you optimism that they're going to be a key part now of this next team?
Well, the one thing that I've learned through the 28, 29 seasons as a coach is anytime that you deal with a transfer, whether he's eligible right away or he played for a portion of time early in his career, sat out, practices with you, whatever it is, their production of what they did before they came to Arizona is really important. It won't always translate perfectly because sometimes the role or the level that they were at before they came to Arizona will be different. But usually if they do certain things well or they're productive in a certain area, they'll bring that with them. And then it's up to us as a coaching staff and as a program to make them feel comfortable and then enhance that and make them better all the way around. So I'll start with Jordan. Number one, Jordan Brown was a McDonald's All-American. They don't give that to you. You have to earn that. I watched him try out for the under-19 Team USA team in Colorado Springs, in which he played against the best players in our country and did a great job over 4 days. Watching him at Nevada, he was on just a team that was loaded with experience. So his role in his one and only year at Nevada wasn't as great, but you could still see that his ability to rebound and play hard and score in the low post is something that he'll do well. He practiced with us every day, Brian, and you think about who was in our practices this past year. You had Ira Lee and Chase Jeter. You had Zeke Naji, you had Stone Gettings, Christian Coloco. So I really feel that no matter what Jordan did, good or bad in our practices, we could really take what he did well to the bank because the competition was very good every day. He was one of our team's best players in practice. I think what he brings to the table is just an innate physical play and a rebounding. I do think that he'll be a double-figure scorer for us, and we're thrilled to have Jordan. He's a quiet warrior. He doesn't say a whole lot, but he plays very, very hard. I would say that if you polled last year's team, each of them would have Jordan in the top 3 on our team and hardest playing guys in our program. James Akinjo, we're familiar with James, kind of like Jordan because he's from the West. He's from California. So we watched him in the EYBL, Nike-sponsored travel team league, played with the Oakland Soldiers. When the Oakland Soldiers went to the Peach Jam before his senior year of high school, not only did the Oakland Soldiers win the Peach Jam and win the championship, but James Akinjo was the MVP of the Peach Jam. I'll just say that says a lot about who he was before he ever went to school. In his year and a half at Georgetown, he was the Big East Freshman of the Year. As we know, the Big East is one of the most competitive and complete college basketball conferences in the country. Personally, I know a lot of coaches in the Big East. When we reached out to check on James, in addition to what we already knew, I think we were getting a guy that's experienced, that brings a toughness, who can play both defense and offense, and is just a terrific point guard. And the fact that he was able to learn our system and practice with us after Christmas, think about him, played against Nikko Mannion and Jamal Baker every day, and there were days when those guys really battled. I loved James in practice because he came at a time when he was able to make Nikko and those guys better. He pushed them every day in practice. So, again, experienced, a little bit older, and I believe that we're getting a point guard who will come into the Pac-12 and really settle in and be a very good player. The other thing I like about James, Brian, is he doesn't have to be the one and only point guard on the court. We could play a number of different combinations. I think this coming year we'll play a lot of 3-guard lineups because James also can play off the ball and score. And that's something that I think we're excited to utilize with him as well.
All right. Well, let's talk about some of the new guys now. And you and your staff have done a tremendous job signing a big class, number one, and a very talented class. And maybe the first guy to talk about is the first guy. It's Dalen Terry out of the Phoenix area. I know you're very excited. And when you talked there just a moment ago about someone who can play multiple positions, is that a pretty good description of Dalen?
It is. To pigeonhole Dalen Terry as just a point guard, just a small forward or 2-guard would be just really unfair. I believe that he's today's version, the way our game is played, of just a guard. He can play the 1, 2, or 3. When I talk about a 3-guard lineup, he could be that 3rd guard where, the number one thing that Dalen does well is he's an excellent passer, and he's 6'6". He loves to be in the open court with the basketball. He has just an innate ability of being able to find the open man, and he does it at 6'6". He's also, he competes at a level that I admire. He's a two-way player. I believe Jordan Brown and James Akinjo are as well. He gives great effort, and as he gets smarter as a defensive player, same with his versatility on defense. He doesn't just guard a certain type of guard. He can guard really players all over the court. And I think with his length and size, that will be something that will serve him well.
In the past, you've recruited internationally, Lowry, Dusan, etc. We've got 4 players right now coming in that have international backgrounds. Tell us about that process, because that's fascinating that you've identified them. Obviously, they want to become a Wildcat. And maybe in general, we'll talk about each of them individually, but in general, the recruiting process going internationally like that.
Well, first of all, I give our staff tremendous credit, in particular, David Miller in a coordinating role, but Jack Murphy as our associate head coach. Those 2 guys have really given their heart and soul to the international recruiting. About a year and a half ago, we changed our philosophy to try to really implement the international game as part of every class. In some years, Brian, that may mean we don't bring a single international player to our program. But what it definitely will mean is we will search and we will look and we will try and find people and players that fit the University of Arizona and what we're trying to accomplish as a basketball program. In this year's case, we have a number of international players, and we might even get 1 or 2 more before we're all settled here. But the international game has grown. I guess 6 years ago, when I personally became involved with Team USA and USA Basketball and had my own experience at FIBA, I recognize not only the great talent that's in the international game, but the amazing skill level and coaching. I think there's a number of players that come to us having played in international tournaments, playing with a 24-second shot clock, a deeper three-point line, which is now our three-point line. You saw this year the difference in percentages, right? These guys have played with the international line their entire lives. So we want to mix in the international brand of basketball whenever it makes sense for both them and for us. And we're really fortunate to kind of open that pipeline up to Arizona. You mentioned Dusan, who left here as the all-time winningest player in school history. Lowry, who I looked at it the other day. I think he was a 4-star recruit, pretty good 4-star recruit. Somebody who I think arguably was one of the best freshmen that we've ever had at Arizona. And, Keanu Pinder has helped. Kirill Nadiasko has helped. You forget DeAndre Ayton was from the Bahamas. So we've had our fair share. Ivan Radenovich, back in the day for Coach Olson, was an excellent player and really made a difference on his teams. So we're excited about adding that. And again, I give David Miller and Jack Murphy just a ton of credit. It's one thing to get on a flight, Brian, and fly from here to Vegas. It's an entirely different picture when you fly from here to Lithuania or, to the Netherlands or the different places that Jack has gone.
All right. Outstanding. Well, I want to get your thoughts on these guys that are coming in. I'll start with Daniel Ba Cho, 6'10". He's out of France, MVP of the Adidas Next Generation Tournament in Belgrade, et cetera. What do you see in particular in him?
Well, the first thing I want to address is I think it's been reported that Daniel had suffered a torn ACL at some point and had recovered and played this past year. That's not true. He had a fractured kneecap, which is a much, I don't want to say better injury, but structurally it's certainly a different ball game. So he's not recovering from a torn ACL or MCL. He did sustain that kneecap injury, but he's fully recovered, and we're anxious and excited to eventually get him here on campus. But Daniel is a physical 6'10" forward/center. I think he could play both positions for us. He's aggressive. I think he's a very good defensive rebounder. Again, adept at FIBA basketball, where pick and roll and playing up and down, being able to defend pick and rolls, those are things that he's been doing for a number of years. But hungry guy, a guy who loves the game, really excited to have him.
All right. Next up would be Kerr Krisu, 6'3", out of Estonia, but you mentioned Lithuania, played there this last season.
Kerr is just an amazing playmaker. If you watch him play in the variety of FIBA tournaments and with the different teams that he's played on, the one thing that always holds true with him, and that is he makes the right play. He loves to pass the ball. I love his ability to shoot. You know, he is a deadly three-point shooter when left open, but in the open court, playing pick and roll basketball, playing in transition. And because, you know, I would say Kerr is every bit 6'2", maybe 6'3", that, you know, he could be on the court with a variety of players. You know, the days of just playing a point guard, two big wings, power forward in the center are over. You know, you want to put your best players on the court. I think this year, our best players a lot of times will have lineups that have three guards that play different styles. And, you know, Kerr is somebody that we're really excited about. I also love his competitive spirit. You know, the one thing that we're in search of moving forward and in our quest to be perfect, Brian, we're going to make mistakes, but do they love the game? Is it really important to them? And do they win where they're at? Like, are they a competitor? Do they know how to win? Do they play with great effort and spirit and energy? You know, those types of players continue to get better. And I think that our McHale crowd and the people who love and invest in our program, you fall in love with them as players because you know they're always giving you their heart and soul. And I think Kerr and Daniel both represent that.
All right. So we go from Lithuania to I'll call it a shorter commute to recruit, and that's Montreal, Canada. Ben Mathurin there is 6'6", 190-pound wingman, a Haitian descent, but born and raised in Montreal. What can you tell us about Ben?
Well, we're very fortunate to get Ben. You know, we were in a very tough battle. We didn't know if we were going to get him or not. He had a lot of schools that really wanted to join his recruiting. Again, we were fortunate that we identified him early on. Jack Murphy did an outstanding job of identifying him and really recruiting him with a lot of energy. You know, Baylor was involved for a long period of time. Because we played against Baylor each of the last 2 years and they've beaten us, we tend to respect those types of programs. And when you think about Baylor's guards, some of the things that we played against, I think you really get that with Ben and some of the great wings that we've had at Arizona. Athleticism, guys who thrive in the open court. You know, Ben is every bit 6'5", maybe 6'6". He finishes above the rim. I think he's a very good shooter with a chance to be even better. But a guy who can play pick and roll basketball and could do a lot of different things. I would say the difference is from an athleticism perspective, he's like a lot of guys that we've seen at Arizona who've played the wing position. Josh Green being one of them that thrives in the open court, a high flyer. And as he continues to get more skilled and learn the game, the sky is the limit for Ben. So we're really, really thrilled to have him.
All right, number 4, and you'll have to correct me if I got his name wrong, Tibet Gorner, out of Turkey, but and yet played high school basketball in Southern California at a school you know very well.
Right, so like Christian Koloko, who was in the United States each of the last couple of years before he came to Arizona, and, you know, Christian is not from the United States originally. You know, I would say the same thing about Tibet, you know, from Turkey. But like you said, he played at Orange Lutheran High School this past year. Gabe York's from Orange Lutheran. So we were able to be familiar with him, watched him closely throughout the year. He also played in FIBA for his country in a lot of tournaments that, you know, somebody like Kerr would have played in. And watching him play FIBA basketball, watching him play here most recently at Orange Lutheran, I think you see a guy who's highly skilled. He shoots the basketball, number one, off the catch, off the move, really has a great feel for moving without the ball. And I think as he gets bigger and stronger physically, that's when you're going to see the best for Tibet. And that's something, as you know, Brian, we pride ourselves in. If you just watch Christian Koloko's body change in the brief year he's been with us, it's amazing, you know. And I think Tibet will experience similar types of growth. It's important for me to also address Tibet is 6'8". You know, he's not 6'4", 6'5", or even 6'6" like Ben is. Tibet is more 6'8", so he could play either the 3 or the 4. But no doubt what he brings to the table day one is his ability to play the game the right way, pass, move without the ball, and shoot from the three-point line.
Also, certainly want to add, you're bringing in a grad transfer, and you've had great success with with that mode here the last couple of years. Terrell Brown went to Seattle U as one of their top players and will be eligible immediately, of course, and able to play his final season at Arizona.
Well, you're right. And let me address the two grad transfers that we had this past year, Stone Gettings and Max Hazard. And one of the things that quietly has happened in our program is, as we've taken in these guys for a year, like Justin Coleman and Ryan Luther the year before, I'm very proud of what they've done academically. You know, Stone is almost like a world-class student, so I put him in even a different category. But Max is going to come back this summer and finish 3 additional classes where he'll finish his grad program. Stone already has Ryan Luther and Justin Coleman. They've left here with their graduate degrees respectively. So we're really proud of them. Stone Gettings, Brian, when I reflect back on our season, we played some of our biggest games in the month of December. St. John's before Christmas, which I think is one of our overall worst performances. At Baylor, which at the time we didn't know, but we were playing a number 1 seed on their home court. Obviously Gonzaga, which we did know they were going to be outstanding. I don't know if anybody knew that they could have won the national championship. They were that good of a basketball team. But Stone was unavailable for all 3 of those games. He not only did not participate in any of the 3, he didn't practice. And if you remember, Brian, he wasn't even allowed to be outside of his room for about 2 weeks. We were disconnected with him for a month. And one of the things that I regret is our team's development in adding Stone, what he meant to our team in the months of January, February, and early March. It would have been interesting to see his development in our team if he would have been made available. Number one, I think when we entered Pac-12 play, we might have been a little further along as a team, especially on offense. But I'm not so sure that those 3 games in December would have all gone against us if he would have been able to play. He was an outstanding piece to a bigger puzzle. Say the same thing about Max Hazard. I don't know if we've had a better shooter than we've had with Max. I go back to the Colorado and Utah weekend. We won those 2 games in large part just because Max was on our team. I mean, he could catch fire in a way that you don't oftentimes see. I was disappointed that we weren't able to see him in March, and then in the future, whether it be in the NCAA tournament or the USC game, you know, being able to maybe implement him at that point, it would have been interesting to see, because he's that guy in a game in March that could really change the outcome with 4 shots, you know. But that's why you take grad transfers, because they're older, they're wiser, they've been through the ups and downs, hundreds and hundreds of practice. They know what it feels like to win on the road and what it feels like to play in March Madness. And very long-winded answer, I know, but addressing Terrell Brown, that's what we're going to get with Terrell. He's a great student. He's going to graduate from Seattle U with a very high GPA. We know his head coach at Seattle U very well. And when I tell you he came highly recommended as not just a basketball player, but a teammate, a leader, somebody off the court who's a great kid, high character. And, you know, he scored 21 points per game. I don't care what conference you play in. If you score 21 points per game and you shoot the percentage from 2 that he shot, free throw attempts that he shot, we're really excited to have Terrell. You could play him at 3rd guard, 2nd guard, or a point guard, but he's older, he's physical, and I think that he'll help. When you have this much change, Brian, keep in mind we lost our starting 5 and 7 of our top 9 players from a year ago. You have to blend in experience when you lose that much. And Terrell, he'll be a godsend for us. No doubt he'll be a big part of what we do this next season.
All right, I'd be remiss without asking you about the 3 guys that we certainly know well that will be back. Start with Ira Lee, the senior, the emotional leader, can I call him, of your team. Jamal Baker, of course, joining him as well, and Christian Coloco.
Well, first, Ira, you know, very seldom are we blessed to have players that we recruit from high school that are able to be here for a 4-year period of time. You know, Ira's going to leave here with his degree a year from today. I don't know if I have ever had a player that works harder every day in practice or cares more about the team than Ira Lee. And he's going to be a big piece to our puzzle. His physicalness, his experience, and the fact that he's been through 3 seasons of Pac-12 play will serve not only him well, but also our team well. And I think that Ira will be one of our natural leaders. You know, Jamal Baker, I would say, played this season at about 80%. You know, he was healthy enough to not further damage his knee, but I don't know if he ever hit his stride where physically he was right there, tip-top shape for the stretch run of our season. And we're hoping we can get him to that as he's been with us for a year and having a great off season. You know, Jamal shoots the ball really well. He now knows our system. As you know, we played him at both the point guard and the 2 a year ago. I keep bringing up 3 guards. He's somebody that can play in any one of those 3 guard positions that I'm talking about. And again, somebody who's been through a number of experiences that will really help our team and certainly, like Ira, be one of our team's leaders. Again, I wish those guys were here right now on campus so we could work with them. But we're lucky with both Ira and Jamal in that they're very hard workers. They're older, and in talking with them, I think both of them are doing what they can back at home to get ready for a great off season. Finally, Christian Coloco, and I would say my most frustrating part of the COVID-19 is simply him, because I know what being here on our campus with Chris Rounds, the nutrition, the strength and conditioning program that we're fortunate to have, he might be missing more than anybody, because just watching how his body changed in the first year he was with us. I mean, these months of March, April, May, June, and then the remainder of the summer, I mean, Christian could come back 240 pounds, where this year when you watched him, he was right at about 220, 215. It still can happen, but, you know, he doesn't have the weight room that we have here in RJ at home. So he's doing the best he can. We're in communication with him. Christian was a lot of fun to watch because he gave everything he had to our practices, to our skill workouts, to learning the college basketball game, and certainly in our weight room with Coach Rounds. And he gave us more as a freshman than I could have ever predicted. Brian, if you would have saw him as a junior in high school, there's no way you would have said that he would have played the role at Arizona as a freshman that he did. It's a real tribute to him and our staff, but also Coach Rounds in his weight room and our conditioning and strength program. So we're looking forward to getting Christian back.
Boy, we look forward to having everybody back together again. By the way, Coach, you look good now. Have you cheated and gotten a haircut here in the last month or so?
Brian, I didn't cheat, but yes, I did get a haircut.
Okay. Some of us are still struggling with that. Hey, Coach, I know the season ended way too soon, but it did for everybody, and appreciate your time. Congratulations on a great class. We look forward to the fall and can hardly wait to get back to a Pac McHale Center again.
Brian, thank you. You know, the one thing that I hope everybody can take a deep breath and realize, please don't ever put us in a category of judge this past season as a failure or incomplete, because making the NCAA tournament, it's never been more difficult than it is in today's game. I'll use North Carolina as an example, and North Carolina has been just a standard of excellence for generations and decades. You know, they had a losing season this year. All you have to do is just look each and every year. There's that program that you never could ever imagine not being a part of March Madness, and yet because of so much turnover and parity, that every once in a while that happens in programs that decades ago it would have been an impossibility for them not to be a part of March Madness. We were in this year's NCAA tournament, and we also had the makings because of our youth and because of being able to play a brand of basketball in March that I believe could have allowed us to win in a tournament setting, that the best could have been right around the corner for us. But when you make the NCAA tournament, you have a 20-win season, like the disappointment lied in losing so many, like, one possession and heartbreaking games. But if we would have broken through in some of those one possession games, we would have won the Pac-12, or we would have finished neck and neck with the actual winner of the Pac-12. And instead of winning 21, maybe we win 24 games or 23 games. But we don't know what would have happened. But what I do hope is that when you have as many newcomers as we had on this past year's team, and you watch Chase Jeter leave with his degree and Dylan Smith leave with his degree, and I've talked about Stone Gettings and Max Hazard, you know, those guys leaving with their degrees. And you have three players that I think could be picked in this year's NBA draft: Nikko Mannion, Zeke Naji, and Josh Green. And Zeke was the Pac-12 Freshman of the Year, 3 one-and-dones. It's just hard to say, boy, you guys really laid an egg. You know, the expectations here are so high, and thank goodness they are. It's what makes our program so great. We always want to do more, but I leave this season with my head held very high, because I think in some ways it's a bridge from a couple years of uncertainty to a bright, bright future. And we're looking forward to a lot of newcomers again, and a staff that can bring in a class of 2021. So that's the juniors in high school that I think could really be one of our finest classes in years. We're looking forward to being able to do that and the challenges that lie ahead. And to all of our fans, I know there's some uncertainty, but there'll be a day we'll all get back together in McHale, and we look back to bringing you a great team and continuing to improve and getting back to competing for a 5th Final Four and a 2nd national championship. I think it's something that motivates us every day.
Well said, Coach. Appreciate your time. Stay well, and we'll see you in the fall.
And best of health to you, Brian, and all of our fans and everybody at this crazy time. I believe the best is right around the corner, and some great optimism is going to happen for all of us this summer. And Brian, I don't know what the countdown is to the first Sean Miller radio show, but man, I'm counting the days, man. Every day that goes by, we're a little closer to that day too. So that's another thing we got to look forward to.
You just like the fish and chips. That's what you're waiting for.
Union Public House. You can get it at takeout. So keep that in mind, okay?
Thanks, Coach.
All right.
Coach Sean Miller, that's this week's edition of Bear Down with Brian Jeffries. We'll see you again next time.